Hello everyone, this is the LEGO Ideas, the Globe. I bought this for $200 US. First things first, you already saw the size of this relative to a huge figure. Here it is relative to a random minifigure. I want to say the overall mass, visual mass of it is a little bit greater, minifig not included by the way, a little bit greater than what I was expecting from the pictures, but not by too much. The design of this is pretty faithful to the original fan submission, but a little bit of the plating strategy for the surface of the Earth was changed up, I think, to good effect. And overall, this is able to capture a little bit more detail. And I think it also tries, at least tries, to be more accurate in terms of the shaping and especially the relative sizes of the different continents. But as I say that, I realize that South America might be looking a little bit long relative to Africa. I've not actually measured it. Maybe, I don't know about that. But overall, definitely, I can clearly see that a lot of effort was put into getting this right. And honestly, most of us don't know what the world actually looks like because all of our maps, almost all of our maps, have some form of serious distortion and built-in geometric bias. The assembly of this set starts with the mount and the base, and it's very sturdy. I have no concerns about fragility with this thing. It is a little bit awkward to move it around. You probably don't want to just angle it left to right too willy-nilly, but overall, there's a ton of Technic structure inside. I mean, a ton of Technic structure. Way more reliance on Technic structure than I was expecting inside of this thing, and it's very secure. So a good job was done with that. You can see here that there's still an issue with consistency with Lego parts. In this case, one of the, at least one of the drum lacquered pieces is distinctly different, but there are no stickers in this set, thank goodness. There are a fair number of drum lacquered pieces used around the stand, and that is a really nice print, probably the best print in the set. I really like this cluster of prints here as well out in the Atlantic Ocean. That's a single print for the center 2x2, and then you've got 4 of the 2x2 macaroni tiles all around, and those are printed edge to edge, and it really shows just what Lego is capable of. This is only done with two colors per, but the quality is on point, and this one's done pretty well also. The rest of the prints are labels for the major oceans and also the continents, and I personally think that the design there is not as classy as it ought to be for a globe, and I think mostly what I don't like here is how many times you switch as the eye comes from the outside to the end, how many times it switches between different colors. So you go from the white color of the plastic to the, like here, the dark tan. Then there's the stroke around the typing itself, and then the main color of the type face there. Looks a little bit better with the darker colors here, I think. But the good trick is that each of these labels here, with this 2x4 rounded tile, glows in the dark. The globe itself does spin on its axis, but there's a lot of weight there, a lot of momentum to overcome, so you might want to grab it from the base as well, from the lower pivot point, as well as the top, just to have a little easier time on your fingers there. But it spins pretty smoothly, pretty nicely. Let me get a little more speed into this and then just let it go. See? Yeah, the mechanism works well enough. It's not really that much of a mechanism, but the way that everything is connected works well. And there's actually part of the build on the inside that is a counterweight, simply a counterweight, so that it doesn't wobble so much, since the continental builds of the plates are not even from side to side. So they tried to mitigate that a little bit by putting in some wheels and tires, which are extra heavy on one side. The thing I like least about this globe is how easy it is to see light from the other side. I don't have a super bright light. Contrary to popular belief, this studio that I'm working in, especially now, is not super bright. So you are realistically, if you have this thing not up against a shaded wall or in a bookcase or something, a deep bookcase, you are going to see light through it. You are going to see those gaps. And I wasn't able to really capture here fully on camera what the human eye sees. The human eye sees a bit of a zoetrope effect So it starts to get into a pattern where you'll see the illusion of a continuous image of the other side with a whole lot of lines going through it. I personally recommend that if you want to mitigate that, if you don't want to see those gaps, don't try to fix it with a Lego only solution. It's just going to require so many pieces and isn't going to quite be perfect. I recommend getting some black tissue paper, just tissue paper. And before you put the last couple segments or 3 segments on here, just stuff the inside of it with that loosely. It doesn't have to be particularly tight. You don't have to worry about the mechanism for the spinning, because the axis, it's only connected here. So the axles are just rotating within this spot and then down at the base. So nothing inside needs to have any clearance or anything. Just fill that space up with the lightest weight and darkest colored material that you can. It does not need to be super stuffed, but that's, I think, going to be the most effective way to deal with that problem. The other problem with this globe is that, well, it's made out of Lego, so there's no way for it to be actually accurate and correct without doing it all in just stickers. The designers focused on physical builds for all the continents and shapes of countries and islands and everything. And as a result, you get some pretty weird looking stuff. A lot of people have complained about a lot of shaping of Europe in particular. I think Africa is mostly good, although the top of, is this Algeria here, I think, is a little bit awkward just because there is that gap between the 2 major panels there. But I think most of the shape of it is pretty good. That's pretty good. Red Sea has some weird stuff going on here. As you get into the Middle East, I think the Middle East is done pretty well. Asia, overall shaping of it, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Coming down into Indonesia, there are some issues down here in Malaysia and Indonesia. It's a little bit off. I think Australia is about as good as it reasonably could be at this scale, given that you have this major seam going through it. Did get New Zealand in there. And you can see from here, from another angle, where a lot of gaps are able to show through. It really depends on the angle that you're looking at. I got a little bit of the islands there. I like this little build. That's nice. Antarctica is modeled down at the base. It's done with just a few little extensions out from a large dish piece, same as is used for the frozen Arctic Ocean. South America, I think, is very well shaped. No issues there. North America, well, let's see. Central, good. What can you really do out here at this scale? North America, I'm a little bit more familiar with than most of the world because I live here. And unfortunately, it's broken up by a bunch of major Legotonic plates going through here, which really hurts the ability to make it accurate. But the shaping still looks pretty weird to me. Is Alaska really that far out, or is it just everything is angled a little bit differently? I don't know. It's awkward. And I feel like maybe Canada is portrayed a little bit larger, excuse me, a little bit smaller than it is relative to the United States as well. It's rough. It's really rough. It's a difficult task that was taken on here. I've seen people try to do things better, and I've seen people responding that, oh yeah, anything is better than what they did. I'm not sure if I fully agree with that. I think the problem is the medium and the scale more than the design choices. Last thing I want to talk about is the major pattern of construction and assembly for this. You basically go back and forth between this shape right here and this shape right here for a pizza slice. So you either one panel above the equator have a square, or you have a wedge-shaped area, and each one is built just about the same. And like I said, there's a lot of technical stuff on the inside to get all the angling, and also to make sure that it's nice and strong and consistently so. It's very consistent all the way around. I'm not worried about this crushing if I accidentally pick it up from the sides only, but you should not pick it up from the sides only. You should always try to pick it up from the base and the stand. But yes, there is obviously going to be a ton of repetition. I've seen a lot of people just repeating that, oh, I've heard it's super, super repetitive. It is, but I think the design team did the best they could to reduce the feeling of that as you go through this, because you do a little bit of repetition of building, and then you add in the details of the surface that's going to be on there, and then you apply it. You add it on to the globe as you're building it up. So you go back and forth between different types of building. It didn't feel mean to me. It didn't feel bad, the assembly process. I think I went into it with appropriate expectations just looking at it from the outside. Of course, it has to have a bunch of repetition in order to be round. And I think that's perfectly fine. I think that the design team, again, did about the best they could with that, and it wasn't a problem to me. These are the leftover pieces, and yes, that blue pin is supposed to be there. That's confirmed. $200 US is a lot of money. I think it's reasonable for this amount of Lego stuff. There's more here than meets the eye when it comes to total amount of Lego, pieces and size of pieces and complexity here than it looks like just from the outside. It's not all just about the size, because there's a lot of stuff inside there, and you can't feel that from where you are right now unless you pick this thing up and feel the weight, or have been through the process of either doing the build or watching the build. So I think that this actually is a reasonable price for that mass of Lego. But it's not a reasonable price for a globe that's not even an educational device. It's not even a particularly interesting build, because so many things are repeated because they need to be, that's all appropriate. But you can get a really nice globe for $200 US. You can get a globe this exact size from a decent brand for half that price. This exact size for half that price. That actually shows like countries and elevations and things. So if you think you're going to get this and it's going to provide some really good educational opportunities for a kid in the family or something, it's not. If you think that this is a good thing to spend your money on for a display piece, something curious and interesting to just have on display, unless you already have everything else, I'm going to say it's not. Because again, you get a real globe. You probably get a novelty globe, something interesting, something illuminated, something maglev. Seriously, they've got lots of something with beautiful bronze, real bronze, at least coating, or copper, and looking all fancy and everything with the full 3D reliefs and all the nice stuff for this price or less. It would be so much better. Overall, like I mentioned, when this thing first showed up on the Ideas website as a fan submission, I think this is the exact type of thing that belongs in the Ideas system. And I really like getting things that are non-licensed, that are interesting in design, in concept, as Lego builds and such. But ultimately, this just ended up being, really ended up pricing itself, I think, out of the realm of reasonability, unfortunately. Nothing wrong with it, given the medium. Again, I have to be kind to the fact that this is made of Lego. I cannot say that this must be 100% accurate, must have zero gaps whatsoever, otherwise it's absolute garbage. Because no, this is actually pretty good, and the sturdiness and everything is nice. The prints are good, and the glow-in-the-dark thing might not be implemented that well with how they did the graphic design here, but it does work. But it's just too much, I think, for this. Not a good value overall. Let me know if you agree with that, or if you completely disagree with that. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll talk to you again soon.